The pilot stepped forward. Then the police dog growled and blocked him. Moments later, officers were crawling under the plane and started screaming. Something had been hidden there. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The terminal buzzed with the sluggish rhythm of early morning travel. Boarding announcements muffled under coffee-sipping yawns and the rolling wheels of carry-ons. The air carried that sterile, recycled chill that made everyone a little more impatient. But Officer Trent Myers wasn't scanning the gate for boarding calls. His eyes were on Axel. Axel's gait had been steady, confident as always, until they approached gate D12. Then, with the precision of a tightened spring, he stopped cold. No tug of hesitation, no sniff and go, just a sharp, frozen halt. It was subtle, but Trent knew his partner. That pause was deliberate, purposeful. Captain Richard Vance arrived a beat later, his presence cutting clean through the crowd like a blade. Tall, composed, every inch the seasoned pilot, blue epaulets crisp, silver wings glinting under fluorescent light. He greeted the gate agent with a polite nod and slipped his ID from his pocket. That's when Axel growled. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't fear. It was a single, deep-throated sound that vibrated more like a warning than a threat. His body blocked the path in one smooth movement, front legs planted, head low, eyes locked on the man in uniform. Captain Vance paused mid-step, caught off guard but still wearing a polished smile. "Something wrong with your dog, officer?" But Trent didn't answer right away. He wasn't looking at the pilot. He was looking at Axel's tail, perfectly still, and the slight twitch in the dog's left ear. That was the tell. The signal Trent had seen only a few times in his career. Not just a hit, a flag, a hard one. Amy Norris, the co-pilot, arrived next. Mid-30s, light brown hair pulled back tight, a smart gray flight uniform that was too neat to have seen turbulence. Her brows pulled together. "Is there a problem, officer?" Trent's voice was calm, even flat. "Yes. Please step away from the gate. Do not board the aircraft." The words sliced through the terminal like glass. Conversation died. A child stopped mid-complaint. A barista behind the counter leaned closer to the window. Nobody moved. In K9 protocol, refusal from a certified detection dog triggered a chain reaction. But a direct physical block, especially of a uniformed pilot, that was an anomaly. Rare, alarming, and as Trent stared into Axel's unblinking focus, he knew two things for sure. Something didn't smell right, and whatever it was still inside that plane. The wind across the tarmac cut through layers like a blade, cold and biting despite the rising sun. Officer Trent Myers moved with purpose, his boots thudding against concrete while Axel strained forward, muscles taut beneath his harness. The plane loomed ahead, silver and unbothered, a sleeping giant unaware of the chaos it was about to birth. Axel barked again, twice, not out of aggression but with a clear cadence. Signal confirmed. Without needing a word, Trent adjusted course. The handlers and agents behind him followed, their radios hissing fragmented commands. "Secure perimeter. Notify the captain. Maintenance to gate D12. Now." By the time they reached the aircraft's underbelly, a scissor jack was already lifting its rear just enough to make room. Axel circled once, then dropped to a sit, still and statuesque beneath the rear cargo hold. That was it. No more doubt. He'd found the source. Trent's eyes scanned the surrounding gear, his breath forming clouds in the morning chill. He crouched low, flashlight sweeping through shadows until it caught on something that didn't belong. Dull black fabric, zipped tight, shoved deep between steel ribs and hydraulic lines. "Bag," he called out. "Right here. Get eyes on it." Gloved hands pulled it free. It came reluctantly, snagged on a bolt, heavy with illegal weight. The duffel thumped against the tarmac, and every head turned toward the sound. It didn't look like much. Worn, military surplus style. No tags, no initials, just sealed zippers wrapped with a length of nylon cord and duct tape. Trent unzipped it slowly, already knowing. Inside, bricks. Compressed, dense, bound in plastic film so tight they gleamed under sunlight. No labels, no colors, just the unmistakable look of narcotics packed for transit. He didn't need a field kit to know. "Cocaine," he said, voice even. "Probably Colombian. Over 15 kilos easy." The crowd behind him shifted. A TSA supervisor swore under her breath. One of the mechanics took a step back. No one said it aloud, but the weight of implication sank in immediately. This wasn't random. It wasn't some passenger smuggling in their checked bag. No. The bag had been anchored with magnets and precision to a structural point only accessible on the ground, only accessible before takeoff. This wasn't amateur. Someone had help, someone with clearance, someone who knew exactly where the plane would be, and when, and who'd be on board. Trent stared at the bag like it might still answer him, but it wouldn't. Axel, however, sat still, watching the sky, waiting, as if whatever was coming next wasn't done yet. The airport, once buzzing with early travelers and overhead announcements, now felt suffocating. The air inside Terminal D had grown still, punctuated only by the steady march of law enforcement boots and the clipped, irritable clicks of radios. Interrogation rooms filled one after another. Every ground worker with proximity to Gate D12 was pulled aside, questioned, then questioned again. Their schedules dissected, their access logs scrutinized. Captain Richard Vance sat stone-faced in a back room, hands resting stiffly on the edge of the table. His uniform remained pristine, but his jaw was clenched so tight it trembled. "This is absurd," he snapped for the third time. "I've served 26 years without a stain. I'm not some baggage mule." The veins in his temple pulsed visibly. "You're humiliating a decorated officer based on a dog's bark." But the evidence had already started whispering behind the scenes. Co-pilot Amy Norris had said little at first. She'd remained in the background, reviewing logbooks, responding to procedural questions, until she remembered something small, subtle, the kind of detail that only made sense in hindsight. "He always wants to do the final walk around himself," she said quietly. "He won't let anyone else near the rear gear casing. Says it's his ritual. I never thought much of it." "Every Thursday? Every single one?" That one sentence cracked the case wide open. Security footage was pulled from the past 6 flights, 4 of them normal. But 3, all with Vance in the cockpit, showed unexplained fueling holds and detours that rerouted the plane for no apparent reason. No maintenance logs, no weather justification, just unspoken detours, ghost deviations, and in every video there he was. Vance, standing a little too long near the rear of the fuselage, not inspecting, just standing, like a man stalling for time, or waiting for something, or someone. By the time authorities reached the terminal parking lot, he was already moving fast. A bag over his shoulder, phone pressed tightly to his ear. He didn't look back. He knew. But he didn't see Axel. The moment the dog locked on, it was over. Axel surged forward, teeth bared not in threat, but in instinct. Officers descended in seconds. No struggle, just silence. The kind that follows betrayal. Vance didn't say a word as they cuffed him. His eyes scanned the tarmac, the runway, the tower, everything he'd spent his life commanding, now completely out of reach. Axel stood beside Trent, unblinking, ears forward, He hadn't just tracked down a scent, he'd unmasked a man. Sunlight poured through the reinforced windows of the TSA K9 division office, casting quiet streaks across the linoleum floor where Officer Trent Myers sat with his boots untied, one elbow resting lazily on the armrest of a worn-out chair. Beside him, sprawled in contentment, was Axel, chest rising and falling in rhythm as he chomped methodically on a freeze-dried duck treat, crumbs caught in the bristle of his dark muzzle. The buzz of news coverage played faintly from the mounted TV overhead. A headline looped, "Hero Dog Exposes Trafficking Ring. Airport Pilot Confesses in Stunning Turnaround." Below it, a photo of Axel, his tongue out mid-bark, had become an overnight symbol of trust and instinct. Trent gave a low chuckle and shook his head. "You knew something no one else did, huh?" he muttered, voice low, like he was letting Axel in on a secret that didn't need repeating. Axel perked his ears as if in agreement, tail giving 2 slow thuds against the floor. They had both seen the aftermath unfold. The quiet shock in people's faces when the story broke, the subtle shame behind the airline's public apologies. An internal review was launched within hours of the confession. It turned out Vance wasn't alone. 2 baggage handlers had already fled the city. Another crew member had been caught attempting to wipe logs and shift surveillance footage. But it hadn't worked. Because one dog paused, and that pause had become protocol. In the days that followed, letters poured in. Parents with children on Flight 318. A retired detective who said it restored his faith. Even a small crayon drawing mailed in from a 4th-grade class in Nebraska. Axel's tongue sticking out, badge taped to his collar. Trent pinned that one to the bulletin board above his desk. The mayor held a quiet ceremony on the airport lawn. Axel wore a new vest that day, a small golden medal clipped just above his nameplate. When the cameras flashed and the applause rolled over him, Axel didn't bark. He just stood tall beside Trent, gaze locked forward, steady, assured. Later that week, the official TSA training modules were updated. Axel's distinct sequence, the pause, the block, the sustained sit, was entered into national behavioral standards. They called it the Axel pause. A moment, a choice, a second of stillness that echoed across a nation. Because sometimes the sharpest weapon in a war for truth has 4 legs and refuses to step aside.